Okay, welcome back to What If History Restarted. This is episode 51. Last time we saw World War I take place. And now this is the same map that we had at the start of the last episode. And that's because underneath this map is the Peace Treaty of World War I, which we are going to be looking at today. So, we're going to start up here, where we have the Danish colonies up here in Canada, Greenland, and Iceland. Denmark, of course, lost the war, and there's a ton of rebels in these lands, so they are going to be made independent as this new brown country. Now, Iceland is actually still going to be territory of Denmark, but all of Greenland and Canada will no longer be. We can just do this. And we will see that Alaska also gets a little bit of a cut out of this, since they did help. Oh, that's a big truck outside. But anyway, we also had this prairie country. They were also on Denmark's side, and they lost. So they're going to be losing land to this country, and a little bit to Alaska. So they aren't hit too bad, but I believe they did lose. Yeah, they lost one major city. But that's really it. Then over here we have this Caribbean/Venezuelan country, which got hit with a pretty big civil war. And so we see that a lot of these ethnic groups up in the Caribbean are given their own countries. You can see I already did the capitals and all that, so that's fine. And then over here, this Colombian country, or Ecuador, I guess, gets all of this. The rest of this is left as itself, though. Turning over to these three colonies. If you remember, one of the main reasons that the Square Team won is because they partnered with native people, basically, getting them to join their armies and recruit in exchange for their freedom. So, and that offer also extended to the native people that were native peoples under the control of their enemies, such as Denmark. So we can see that all three of these countries are going to be, all three of these colonies are given independence. Yes. This country was also part of the Star Alliance, so they are slightly punished. We have this very bad border here, but that's what colonialism does. And finally, this Peruvian country that was in the war gets some land out of this country that was in the war. And that is all of the Americas, I believe. Although, what did I do with Hawaii? Hawaii becomes a Tuscan colony. I guess that seems about right. And Alaska gets that island from Korea. But that's it. Okay, now moving down here, we are going to see that the Gibraltar Rebellion is no longer just a rebellion, as they are given full independence once again. They are also given most of these colonies, although they're given most of these colonies, but some, like in the south and also in the north, are given to Tuscany. Tuscany also takes Sardinia. Balearic Islands stay, though. And then these guys do get some extra land out of these countries. As for this Danish colony, it is split into three parts. One part goes to Gibraltar, one to Tuscany, and the rest, since this area is very rebellious and hard to keep down, they just figured it would be easier just to make it independent. So now we have an independent Gold Coast country. Over here, these colonies, the Korean and Catalonian colonies. We see the Catalonian colony is given over, some of it is given over to Tuscany, but the rest of it, as well as all of Korea's colony, are actually given over to Cambodia. Now moving up to Egypt, Oman. So if you remember in the war, the red team was absolutely just dead set on getting these guys out. That generally the Star Alliance the Square Alliance definitely would have had a harder time winning and might not even have been able to if the red team had just been a team player, but instead they've just really focused on getting these guys out of the war and absolutely decimating them. So even though the Square Alliance was successful, these guys still had their own peace treaties with the Red Team that were not able to be fully reversed. So while they don't actually lose any land, they do get split up. And so the Union is dismantled into 4 countries. There's the 3 actual countries that were a part of it, being Egypt, Hejaz, and Oman. But this little sliver right here was given a referendum and they voted to be independent. They are also given some extra land from the Red Team. Moving over here to the Bengali Empire, these guys get absolutely demolished. You can see, their original border is the dashed line, and now their new border is this. Pretty much all the countries around them got land. We also saw this Sri Lankan country, as well as this Indian country, and this Myanmar country. Myanmese, I guess. And also North Sumatra. That's fun. For here in China / Korea, both of these countries are going to be losing a very good portion of land down in the south, with a new Chinese country even being created. Here, the Filipino countries are released, and we also see a new Indonesian country, and, 2 new Indonesian countries get released. I don't even know I think it's Gibraltar colonies. Cool. Who's that? That is Tuscany, I think. But yeah, as for Australia and New Zealand, the Square Alliance looked at them and they kind of decided which areas seemed like they would be harder to control. So the areas that were harder to control in their eyes were given independence, while the easier to control areas were made into colonies. So there we have it. 2 new countries and 2 new colonies. Poor Korea. Speaking of Korea, it's going to get worse for them as we see that northern Hokkaido country is re-given its independence. You also see that Golden Horde. Let's do this for dramatic effect. We also see that Golden Horde is given a ton of land. And now, as for this empty Siberian land, no one actually wants this, really, other than Alaska. Since no one else wants it, they just kind of beg for it. And eventually, at the peace treaty, they are allowed to have it. So there we go. I mean, there's 5 people that live here. I think it'll be fine. As for the Siberian country, they are also getting obliterated, as we see that they lose land to all of their neighbors that were in the war on the opposing side. And they're left just as this. It just really annoys me that it has a capital and 2 vital cities. I feel like we should just do that, and that's better. And just, in exchange, we'll give them a new city up there to make them feel better. Anyway, that is most of the world done, other than the European and Red Team areas. So, looking at the Red Team, we're going to see a ton of land be given away. We have this chunk given over to Golden Horde, and then we have this chunk given over to the Blue Team. You can now officially say that they have completed their Reconquista, and also have actually really just expanded into the Middle East slightly. We see the establishment of a new Persian country and the recreation of an old one over here, like that. We see that these 2 countries in Anatolia get remade. And then we see finally that this new country over here is given its independence. So yeah, it was almost considered just leaving the Red Team like this, but they just decided that they did not want to let this thing get strong again, and so it is getting even further dismantled into 2. With that, we only have Europe left, which is obviously, the juicy part. So, Bulgaria, first of all, they are also going to be wiped off the map, actually. So we see that Hungary gets some land, as well as the dark green team and Sparta. Dalmatia gets a ton of land, and the rest is the rest is made into a new country, being this light blue Bulgarian country. As for this Estonian country, it loses some of its borderlands over to the light green country and Ukraine, and then is forced to spit out these two northern countries. This country over here is also reduced significantly, losing some land to Hungary and the light green team. And yes, we also see that some of its land is used to create this new country over here. Next up, over here, we see that Catalonia is going to lose a decent amount of land over to Tuscany. And now, for a pretty controversial point in this war, the Belgian people are like pretty, let's see, on the Belgian map, they are for the most part the same ethnicity as Tuscany, and well, they're the same like full group, and even then most of it is the same subdivision as well, so they are pretty similar in terms of that. Not to mention, of course, the fact that, you know, they're kind of small, and so we're going to see that Tuscany is going to actually be fully annexing the Belgian country, like that. Next up, over here in Denmark, we see that some of them is devoted to Tuscany, and some is used to create some new countries. And I do believe that leaves us with just Austria. And so we've already taken a little bit of land away from them. We're now going to see fully what becomes of them, as this is their new border. So some goes over to Tuscany, some goes, including this major city down here, or vital city even. We see that this chunk goes over to Dalmatia. It was, you know, getting pretty far up there in terms of land size. I mean, that's definitely a pretty big increase. Hungary gets some land, and two new countries get created. So there we have it. If we did not miss anything, then that is the peace treaty of World War I. Yep, there we go. In terms of the actual land, because we still need to talk about the alliances. So, first of all, obviously the Triangle Alliance is dismantled because no one wants that anymore. And the same is going to go over here for the Star Alliance, because also we cannot have that anymore. And so we are now left with the Square Alliance only. That is literally the only alliance in the world, although some things are going to be changing. Because through World War I, and as well as, you know, the peace treaty negotiations, where some countries might have not gotten as much as they wanted. Some countries, there's been some mutual distrust growing between some of these countries. So we're going to see that the Square Alliance is no longer going to be a military alliance. However, it is going to be a new thing that we're introducing, being an economic alliance. Hooray. Let's hope Cyprus doesn't get to be in an economic alliance, because then that'll be impossible to see. So yeah, we see this. This is the first economic alliance in this series, actually. And it is just the former Square Team countries. However, we're going to see that some new countries are going to be joining this. You see these two countries that were spat out up here. This one, pretty much all the countries that the Star Team had to spit out. Next, as well as, you know, Bulgaria. We also see that some of these Scandinavian countries are a little bit more inclined to join this, such as this one, and probably this one. For here we have the Irish joining in. And of course we have these guys, the Gibraltarians, and finally the Golden Horde-ians. And we'll even throw in the blue team. So yeah, that is the Square Economic Alliance. Or it is not going to be the only economic alliance. So now we got to do the Circle Alliance, Economic Alliance. So this economic alliance is going to be composed of these former unionized countries. It's kind of like more of a Middle Eastern thing, as you can see. So yeah, most of these countries are going to join it. We see that the red team gets a new government, and they are actually going to they're actually more like friendly with these countries now, so they are allowed in. You'll see that even though the blue team is already in the square economic alliance, they are also going to join the circle economic alliance. And we also see the same happen for a lot of these surrounding countries. And we'll throw in South India as well. And probably these ones. And these shapes are way too big for some of these countries, I know, but we'll fix that eventually. We can fix this one right now. Die. Bam. Now we can do bigger than that. Bam. And you can also probably be smaller. And also like you, and also just like most of these countries. Wow. Bam, and bam. I might make the executive decision to change the color of the economic alliance. Maybe not that dark, but sure. Well, sure. That will be the color. Why is that? Why does Gibraltar's square look like deflated? There. So now we're going to turn over to Asia, where we have a military alliance being created. So this one, I guess, will be, we can make it the Diamond Military Alliance. This one is going to be between a lot of these allies. So, well, all of these 4 allies. Golden Horde is going to abstain from joining this, but we also see that this new Chinese one joins, as well as these 2 Filipino countries. Sumatran country does not join. These guys don't join. So this one's not as big, but it is still an alliance. And then over in South America, we might see an economic alliance be made. I don't think they would go for military alliance. They would go for an economic one, probably. So this will do an arrow. The Arrow Economic Alliance is going to be the new government of this Venezuelan country, which has been reformed. The old dictator has been overthrown. So we see that these 3 northern ones, as well as the former colonies, are all going to join in. So China just makes this band around the coast, which is interesting. And finally, in the Americas, we're going to be seeing a small military alliance be created. We'll make this the Pentagon Military Alliance. So this one is started by this Alabamian one, and also going to include this pink one and this Minnesotan one. But we also see that it's kind of going to have a rival in a sense, which is going to be the 3-point star military alliance, composed of this country, the Carolinian country, the old enemy of Alabama, well, not even old, but just the enemy of Alabama, being this Louisiana country, and that is it. So we just have this 3-on-3 sort of rivalry feud thing over in the Americas. And yeah, so that is our updated alliance map of the world. And so now we are going to be, so we have all the alliances and cities and all that, and all the religion is obviously not really going to change at all. So now we're just kind of going to be going into the direct after effects of this war. So, let's turn the alliances off. So we're just going to start up here in North America, where we're immediately going to turn the alliances back on. Because as I was, hinting at, or well, pretty much just directly saying, we see that there's kind of these two feuding sides over here in the North American region. So obviously it started out with Louisiana and Alabama, but these two countries are like the biggest in terms of economy here. This one, surprisingly, this one's probably third, but like you'd probably think it's first, but no, it's third. But yeah, so because of that, they kind of roped other countries onto their sides, and now we have this. So overall, the Pentagon alliance is definitely stronger, but the 3-point star alliance is. We're also going to add in these guys. So now it's a little bit more even in terms of power. As for what the rest of the continent thinks about this, no one really cares since it doesn't really affect them. No one else is also interested in joining at all, but yeah. And then over here in South America, we see that there's, well, first of all, in terms of ideologies, which hint there might be an ideology layer at some point in the near future. In terms of ideology, these countries are pretty democratic. Over here, like, there are some, like, more corrupt countries and governments. Like, I'd say this one, hold on, let's get a better color. This one, like, these three are a little bit more, like, dictatorial, authoritarian. That's the word I'm looking for. But California over here is, well, it's California, so they are economically doing very well already. And they're kind of becoming like an economic powerhouse over in the Americas, even though they don't really have that much land. But they still are very good in terms of economy. Meanwhile, all these surrounding authoritarian countries, actually I don't think I included this one, but yeah, all three of these, even though these guys are like stronger in terms of military and land and all that, they are definitely a lot less economically and influentially good. So yeah. This country over here, though, is definitely still the strongest in the Americas. I guess Alaska might be second place of all countries. And third place might be like, I'd say third place is probably Alabama, fourth place Louisiana, fifth place New England country, then sixth place like Brazil, then North Brazil, then Ecuador, then Chile, then Peru. So that's our top 10 in the Americas. Yeah, these guys are still very powerful. They're also getting along well with good old these guys. And they're also pretty democratic. So this country is, very, very nice place to live. It's doing very good. And also, it stayed out of the war, so it was able to kind of play both sides and sell weapons to both sides. And since it wasn't damaged at all by the war, since it wasn't actually fighting in it, it has definitely come out very rich and influential from the war. Now in South America, things are a little bit more interesting. This country literally is just like fascist. There's a terrible dictator, probably genociding some people. Like, yeah, probably definitely really hates the Egyptian people up here because they quote unquote stole his land. So yeah. This country's not too great. These two countries are like sort of corrupt, but not that bad. And it's kind of just like that throughout most of South America until you get up to the north. These three countries these two countries, this gold one, and this purple one, they are pretty uncorrupt and democratic. This one was pretty authoritarian, but now they're actually becoming democratic. Basically, the Arrow Alliance ones are the free democratic ones. And of course, this one is still the Amazon rainforest country. So yeah, they're just tribes. Over here, the British Isles. These guys are definitely a little bit scared of Tuscany, who's now even stronger. I mean, they are massive now. They're kind of just gigantic France. I guess they're missing like a tiny bit of land down there. Now, as for the losers of World War One, I almost said World War Three for some reason. So, like, you know, Galicia, it was now actually Galicia again, not Portugal. Catalonia, and Denmark, and Austria. None of them are, like, dying now, but, like, these are, like, the powers who lost it. And, like, none of them are, like, that bad off, but, like, their people are definitely a little bit angry, especially over in like, Denmark, because they lost a pretty good amount of land. These guys, though, are still technically good. I mean, they do have, like, three of the biggest cities in the world here still. This one was also really big, which they did lose, unfortunately. They are technically not landlocked. They do have a tiny bit of access down here in the Adriatic, although Tuscany definitely has a pretty big area of influence over there. And then over here, yeah, these two countries are not doing well. These guys are like full on recession, like like one U.S. dollar is like a trillion in their currency. Like they're not doing well. And in fact, we are actually going to have our first like change in the video, other than just the tree, obviously. So, well, let's not use that color because that just looks too similar to this one. And this one is also like too. We'll just use this color as a placeholder. But we see some of these rebels of like poor working class people are going to rise up because these two countries have kind of quote unquote failed them. And over here, they start running rampant in this country, the more Estonian country. Meanwhile, over here, the more Latvian country is doing a decent job pushing them out. But eventually, this colored country finally, like, fully demolishes Estonia and also takes some of Latvia before a peace treaty can finally be made. So, go away. There's a lot of colors up here. It's kind of hard to find a new one. But yeah, Estonia is gone, and this country is now here. And they also take some of Latvia. Yeah, that is some of Latvia. So yeah, that's mildly concerning to the rest of Europe, but they're just going to hope that their population doesn't do the same. These guys are still economically not doing great, so they actually have to sell some of their land. So they basically just make the peace treaty even worse for themselves. They even have to sell some land over to a country who they just rebelled from. But yeah. And then yeah, over here in the Middle East, there's a ton of casualties. It's probably like the most casualties anywhere. I think I'm gonna do like a casualty power rankings in terms of how many people died in World War One, because that would be kind of interesting, I think. But yeah, other than the massive amounts of dead people and destroyed property, there's not too much going on here. Over here in Asia, Korea and China are still pretty strong in terms of economy, and yeah, their economies and even militaries are still pretty good. They're just definitely far from being the leading powers here now, as we can see that what's it called? The Baikal country is actually definitely doing a lot better than these two. There's also some sort of dictators in both of these countries who were removed after the peace treaty, so that's good. But in turn, Baikal kind of has went a little bit more authoritarian, but hopefully nothing bad comes of that. Golden Horde is kind of the same. Golden Horde is fine, actually. They got some land, and their people are just happy. They just have, like, a weird border. They're like a giant, very thick T. Like, they're shaped like this. But that's fine. We will not shame them. And yeah, that's pretty much all, like, the important post-war effects and all that. And so, with all that covered, this episode is kind of over. Obviously, not too much really happened on the... Well, I was going to say not too much happened on the map. A lot has happened on the map. But, like, nothing... There's no, like, events that cause changes on the map, really, other than the, thing up here. most of the changes were from, the peace treaty of last time. So this is our new world map. Get used to it. But yeah, as I was saying, there wasn't really that many like events in this video, but like, this is just important to like transition away from the First World War. Although of course we are still going to do our power rankings. So, number 1 is Tuscany. Who would have guessed? Number 2 is going to be a little more contended for, like, before it went Tuscany, Austria, Red Team, Korea, but Red Team and Korea and Tuscany, Red Team, Korea, and Austria are all definitely a lot weaker now. So I think second place might actually, I don't know, I think second place will probably go for Gibraltar. So, this is not great for these two poor little countries who are sandwiched between the two strongest countries on the earth, who are also allies. So that's not great. Now, our third place country is probably going to be Golden Horde. So that's good for them. Definitely gone up a lot. Fifth is going to be Baikal, who's also gone up a lot. Or fourth place, I mean. Now, fifth place is going to be our precious little Yucatan/Central America country. So there we go. I messed it up a little. Sixth place, probably going to be like Cambodia. Well, actually, no. 6 will be South China. 7 will be Cambodia. 8th, I'd say, is probably going to be Oman. No space there. And then 9th, I would say, is going to be... I think 9th is actually going to be Korea. They're still decently strong. And then 10th, I'm going to give to Austria. They're still, even though they're pretty small now and they don't look that powerful, they're still, like, extremely rich. Obviously, they have to pay a lot of war reparations, so they might not be as rich, but they can definitely come back, because they are the most industrialized country in the world. Anyway, as I hinted at before, it's now time for our casualty power rankings. So, first place is maybe, I'm sure a lot of you can probably guess this, but first place is going to be Korea. They had a ton of soldiers that were just getting thrown all over the world and dying everywhere. Second place is pretty similarly going to be China, because they were pretty much doing the same thing. Third place is going to be Tuscany. They were the strongest country in the world, so they had to be helping out on like literally all fronts. Fourth, although actually I think they would probably be fourth, or maybe even fifth now that I think about it, because fourth would probably be, fourth would be Egypt, Oman, who no longer exists, and third would be Red Team, because those two were really going at it. So yeah, that really puts into perspective how much these guys are fighting each other. Sixth place, I will say, is probably going to be Catalonia. 7th is Denmark. 8th is Austria. 9th is Brazil, with the native people and all that. And then 10th, probably Golden Horde, because there was that, reverse Operation Barbarossa. Although, obviously in our timeline, in World War II, Operation Barbarossa was very casualty heavy for the Soviet Union. That's because it went through, their most developed land in Eastern Europe, whereas this one was reversed and went through Siberia. And so, so most of the deaths were just from, the band of cities that I was just hovering over. And yeah, here is our casualty list for the 10 most casualty-ish countries through that war. And that is going to do it for this video.